I was there for several years, being born in 1930, and then the World War II started in 1941 when I went to the farm. On the farm, I had my own pet collie, which worked with me and was beside me no matter what I did and where I go. My pet collie was with me. One afternoon, we came back from hauling bundles, thrashing, no words going. And an old Model A came up the road and struck my collie and killed him. I never did catch him, but I grabbed my collie and I held him in my arms until he died. And I pulled one little acre of land right behind the house, I'd say a quarter mile away. Overlooked the prairie to the north, which was really beautiful, had the lakeside in the back. And I picked that as a cemetery for my own collie. Right across the street from where I lived in Los Altos was the most beautiful piece of land as far as I was concerned in the whole valley. And boy, I knew what to do with it. Make that into a pet cemetery. I thought, well, this is going to be my project of life. I found the land, I found the need, something the old-timers used to tell me years ago. To be a success in this world or in life, find a need and fill it. And boy, I found the need, and I wanted to fulfill this more than anything else. Anything I've ever did in my whole life, I wanted to fulfill this dream. And there is where we started our work. Planning, development, and getting the people interested, I worked with Carnation Pet Food Company, I worked with Safeway stores, I worked with Lucky stores, several. I remember talking to Dickie with big supermarkets and asking him if I could come in and work in this pet food section and just hand out my cards and talk to the people about having a pet cemetery. I went to grooming shops, I went to the veterinarians, and the interest I got was just phenomenal. It was just great. So then I had to get some more interested people in the idea of it because we needed the financing.
Floyd is a very heartwarming individual and a man that likes to do a lot for everybody. And he'd happened to come into the office one day, and him and I got to talking. And his real name, I think, is Floyd, but we always called him Mac. And Mac, very surprisingly, said to me that something he'd always wanted to do is put a pet cemetery together. So I told him, I said, well, gee, Mac, that's amazing, because we've just been thinking about the same thing ourselves, and maybe we can put it together, as under one group. So he said, wonderful. So I was made aware of this property that is in Los Altos on Foothill and Highway 280, and we felt that that would make a great place for a pet cemetery because it had tremendous visual ability and the thousands of cars that went past 280, and the property leaned in other directions as well. It was a marvelous location for a restaurant or a motel or various and sundry things. We found that people by the name of Dutton owned the property, and we approached them and asked them what they thought of it.
There was a meeting held at Mr. McClure's house, which I attended. I was a little late, but during the meeting, Mr. Dutton had expressed his wishes, desires, and needs to Mr. McClure, and emphasizing very, very strongly that, Mac, you have nothing to worry about. I'm a minister of this particular church. You can trust me. You can trust me. You can trust me. I'm a minister. We will have a pet cemetery. It will be a success, and you and I will put it together. We'll do it. We'll have it. Just you and I.
That was sort of a kismet idea. So we went to work on the pet cemetery, and the ugly crisis, which we used as our basis, and this was no nothing against the SPCA of Santa Clara County. It was nothing against the Animal Control Officer of Santa Clara County. But the idea that we needed the concept and for the people that loved their pets and needed a place for them. Not the garbage pit, not the garbage can and a place to bulldoze them into the ground because we had more love and desire for our Mother Nature's little pets. God only gave us these pets to be our fellowship, our desire, and our will. And what have we got to give them in return? Not to be put into a garbage pail or a dump ground, but our last goodbye for the thanks that they gave us.
Rendering is one of the oldest industries. It dates back to the time of the Egyptians. They can trace it back this far, rendering. In the Bible, you know, way back in the Old Testament, the guy cut off the sheepskin, right, and put it over him. Put the lamb fat on him to keep him warm. It could be the oldest industry in the world. It could be. It's possible. When the public got concerned about recycling, that's when the rendering industry started to blossom out, so to speak, and say, hey, we've been recycling for 500 years here, you know, take a look at us. We are recycling. We're doing what everybody wants us to do, and that's when we started to come forward. Before that, nobody talked about the rendering industry. That's why it was the invisible industry. Nobody ever mentioned it, you know, on the quiet side, what those guys do out there. They boil all this stuff in pots. It stinks.
What is a rendering company? A rendering company. And my mind pretty exploded with the thought and remembrance of a very bad nightmare, a dream of hell. And it took me back to this rendering company in North Dakota, where all the little pets at that time, when they died, were a truck would come out and a big old driver would come and grab your pet and throw them in the back end of this old truck and take them to what I call the boiler chambers.
It's controversial. In other words, we stay low key. We don't want people to know we're bringing in animals and reprocessing animal byproducts. I don't know. Some people get nauseated by the thought. They get nauseated by it. You know that? You know what actually nausea? You know, I mean, I've had people ask me. I've been at a dinner party and been sitting down at a dinner table, and somebody will say, "What do you do?" And I say, "Hey, I'm in the tallow business." And somebody will say, "Oh, geez, don't bring that up right now, huh? Wait till after dinner when we all break up." I mean, in other words, we don't want to talk about what you do, Mike. It makes us sick. Why? I don't know, but it does. People say that all the time.
We called it back home a glue factory. They don't waste nothing. And they take the meat and strip it, and they take the bones and boil them and cook them and make some kind of a meal out of them, and they don't waste nothing, not even the toenails on the animal or anything. And the smell that came from it, and I walked in there one day as a child and I seen all these animals laying there. Being a 4-H man and an animal lover, and I just thought, boy, being in hell, here I am. I'm sitting in the floors of hell right now.
I furnished a car or the station wagon, and Mac furnished some furniture and his time and his promotion skills. And Joe also furniture and some labor. We both dug the first few graves, and I made some of the caskets, and Joe would also go around and pick them up, and he'd go around and pick up the pets to be prepared.
Burying the pets was a very, very difficult task. Mr. McClure was physically handicapped. He couldn't no way do any physical labor whatsoever. And my having full-time employment was mostly done in the evening.